Hi, good morning. Um, so after Matt and Janet came to Global, I'm like, I have got to figure this out. This is really amazing. So I found out where their next training day was and their next conference. I signed up for it right away and went to it. And the following weekend, I was driving to our local methadone clinic, and there were a team of us for 5 years. And what we would do is we would just pull up. We popped up a tent. It said free coffee and prayer. We had a pickup truck. We just put down the tailgate and had pots of coffee, and threw out some camping chairs. And people just came, and we just loved on them. Maybe they just wanted coffee. Maybe they just wanted to sit. Sometimes they literally just wanted coffee because the coffee in the methadone clinic was gross. You know, whatever they wanted, we were just available for them. So as I'm driving Saturday, I'm like, Jesus, this is all well and fine. I can see how it can be used in a conference. I can see how it can be used, in my church with the prayer team. But what does it look like on the streets? So we're standing there under the tent, and all of a sudden, this guy pulls over to the right and parks his truck, and he's determinedly walking toward the tent. And I go up to him, and I said, hey, would you like some coffee? And he's like, no, I want prayer. I've got anger, I need to get rid of it. And no lie, you guys, I was like, step into my parlor. And I'm like, oh, great, why don't you just come and sit in these chairs and we'll just talk about this anger. So we went on over, and I just started listening to his story. And his girlfriend was about to kick him out because her 3-year-old son, which he loved desperately, he was just out of control with his anger. So he was frustrated with himself because he couldn't understand why he was constantly jumping down this poor little boy's throat every wrong move he made. He wanted to stay in relationship with his girlfriend. And as I heard his story, we started with forgiveness. And he forgave actually the little boy's father, who was currently in jail, which made him angry that this little boy didn't have a dad available to him. We walked through forgiving himself, but I asked him, did you always have an anger problem? And he goes, yes. And he goes, my dad physically abused me my whole life. And so that's, where the root of the pain was. So sometimes, pain can be so painful that it's too difficult to face it head on. So we just started out a little bit in the distance. It's like, can you forgive your father for choosing not to be a better parent? Sometimes to say the word choose, you're grabbing Jesus by the lapels, like, I choose to forgive this person, right? And we just kind of chipped around the mountain, and then he was able to forgive the person. How many of us know that church has its own etiquette, right? It has its own culture, it has its own flavor. Sometimes we would never wear to church what we wear at home, right? So there are words that we don't want to use because we don't want to have anything that prevents them from accessing Jesus. So renouncing at its basic just means to break agreement. All right, so in the renouncing section, we just said, I break agreement with anger. I break agreement with resentment. I break agreement with, whatever it was. So he allowed me to command them to go away, and then gave him a father's blessing. On the street, when you're encountering people, in church, we close our eyes and bow our head, okay? That's weird on the streets. All right? And we don't want to make God any weirder than he is because he's already supernatural, so we don't want to add to it. So sometimes you can just, take their hand and say, would you mind if I pray for you? I was at a physical therapist, and I was talking to this one patient, and in the end, she came up to me later, a couple days later, and she said, would you do me a favor and pray for me? I have to have surgery. And so she was at this station where they do exercises, and I said, sure. And I said, let me just take your hand. And so right there in the clinic, nobody knows what we're doing. I'm a physical therapist talking to a patient, and was able to pray for her and bless her. So work to keep your eyes open. Work to just use regular language like you would out on the streets. Thank you.